So, Mr. Kaufman, take it away.
Sure, thank you. So our agenda for tonight is to go over the 3-year expenditure analysis, 3-year tuition expenditure analysis, meaning charter schools, brick and mortar, and other tuitions that we pay to other organizations. 3-year revenue analysis, the current expenditures to date, the current revenues to date, the projected expenditure increases for the 24-25 year, the ESSER funds balance and what the budget is for those dollars, the 24-25 budget calendar, and a couple motions for the November business meeting. So below is or on your screen is a chart for the 3-year expenditure analysis. The main areas that stick out again are the instruction variance. This is due to the majority is due to the ESSER funds that were spent that aren't budgeted for, as well as the difference between our charter expense versus our budget. Another item you'll note are building improvements, and they are related to the ESSER funds used in the East Lansdowne and Evans HVAC projects.
Hold for 1 second. Does anyone have any questions? We're going to be, this is a lot. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand and I will call on you. You can use the Q&A also. I just don't want to get to the end and have you worry about holding your questions. So no questions on this one. Proceed ahead. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I got my slides backwards for revenue and tuition on the agenda. Below on your screen is the 3-year revenue trend. As you can see, the variance for federal funding is the ESSER funds that were unbudgeted for, which made up the majority of those variances. As well as the state variance due to having to approve a budget before we knew what the BEF number was. And then we also had a local variance where our local revenues came in better than what we had anticipated.
Any questions for anyone? All right, seeing none, proceed ahead.
Okay, on your screen now is the 3-year tuition trend. As you can see, the tuition has been about 17 million post or mid to post pandemic. That's about a $3 million increase from before or during the beginning of the pandemic. And we had until the 23-24 year, we had not adjusted our tuition budget to match that, hence the variant I had mentioned before. But now we should have a more appropriate budgeted figure.
Any questions from anyone? Just a point of note, any advocacy that can be done regarding charter school tuitions regarding cyber is greatly appreciated. There should be, there's been a bill around for about 2 years. And any sort of that, again, not anti-choice, just want the rules to be fairer. Proceed ahead.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this slide shows the expenditures as of our most reconciliation, which was October 31st, 2023, as well as the percentage of the budget that was used. Again, you can see the ESSER funds that weren't budgeted for the building improvements HVAC, but those are all reimbursed using federal funds. So there's a matching revenue that was not budgeted for.
Any questions? Sorry, I'm trying to get my light. I'm here. Okay, proceed ahead.
On the other side is our revenues to date as of 10/31 with the percentages of the budget. The local revenues are a little lower than anticipated for this time of year due to the deposit issues, I should say, for the tax revenues. Other than that, everything else is about in line with what we had expected, other than the federal line. We received our ESSER funds before we had spent them. So that's why that budget is, or the actual is much higher than the budget. And this is due to the timing of the construction payments.
Great, thank you. Any questions from anyone?
About local, are you talking about the lockbox issue?
Yes.
Okay, just want to be sure. Thank you.
Mr. Kaufman, we can update these for our December meeting too, correct?
Yes. So just so you're aware, on November the 7th, I made a $10 million deposit. So that would, that's a significant, it's about a quarter of what currently is in that revenue column. So that's why I thought it was important to note that it's a little lower than it should be.
Got it. Thank you.
So on to the next budget season. Our first look for the healthcare trust was approximately a 10.74% increase. Our second look and final number comes in March of 2024. Our prescription first look comes in January with our final look in April of 2024. Last year, it was a 12% increase. With the healthcare being up 10%, I don't want to really predict what it is, but I'm assuming it's going to be an increase. The PSERS rate doesn't get approved until their, I believe, December meeting, but the projected increase is from 34 to 34.73. So that's about a 2% increase. Our maintenance contract with Airmark has a contracted 4.5% increase. Our contracted increase with the first student is 3%. And then our Delaware County Community College, IU, and VOTEC budgets are not out yet, so we do not know the increase as of yet. As well as our collective bargaining agreements, 3 of the agreements are in discussion for any potential increases, and the ESPA contract has a 56-cent per hour contracted increase.
Great, and for those that don't know, ESPA is our IAs and secretaries, correct?
IAs and secretaries. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I was just making sure we didn't miss anybody. I think there's some staff nurses, I think, are as well.
Got it. Any questions? Okie dokie, proceed ahead.
All right. So the outlook on the ESSER funds that we received or were rewarded, what we spent, and the amount that was rewarded that are remaining. In total were awarded 26.8 million of ESSER funds. Now we received other CARES money, but that has been spent for a couple of years, so I left that dollar amount out. So ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 are what make up these figures. Out of the 10 million that's left, 10.8 million that's left, the majority of it goes to the HVAC project, as you can see below. The next big item is the summer enrichment, along with tutors for after school, which is a mandated break off from the ESSER 3 grant. We have to do an after school program for 175,000. For displaced children, 68,000. That is also a mandated break off, and the SEL curriculum is a mandated break off as well. So those items have been budgeted for and are going to be spent down by 9/30/2024 as required.
Got it. So do you know, summer enrichment and those sort of things are funded with these monies?
Correct.
Any questions? All right. Next.
Next item is the 24-25 proposed budget calendar. I'll click on it just to show it, but I won't walk through it too much. Essentially, it just outlines the dates of certain actions and things that are going to be done by or need to be done by the board and the administration to get a budget passed in time in compliance with the state's requirements.
Yes, we need state government to pass a budget on time this year. We would prefer not to guess 2 years in a row. It's dangerous. Any questions?
I agree.
Okay.
All Okay, that leads us to our last item, the motion for the November board meeting, the business meeting, I should say. And the motion is for the 24-25 budget process for the Act 1 index. And it's two options. The first is to pass a resolution not to exceed our maximum tax increase of 8%. Or if we are planning on increasing over 8%, then we must take the second action and post a preliminary budget by January 24th, 2024.
Correct. This is just a formality. We have never gone above the index. Ever.
Yeah, that is correct. And I think we legally have to put it this way to be in
Correct.
compliance, but I'm not absolutely positive on that. So,
Correct. Okay.
all right.
Any questions? I'm sorry. Any questions?
Wasn't there a number that we used? What was it, like 3.4% or something of the last year or a year before?
Did you hear that, Mr. Kaufman?
Yes, so each year the index, there's a baseline index that the state puts out, and then depending on different factors, income ratios, population, funding status, they create your adjusted Act 1 index, and this year our adjusted index is 8%. Last year, I believe it was 6.1%, and I believe the year before it was around that 3.4 figure.
Yep, you're right.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson and Ms. Boykins. Anyone else have any questions regarding this motion? Okay,
And I believe that's it for my presentation for today.
great. Any questions from anyone at all?
Concerning, there was, I believe, a bill floating around for the charter schools and changes to be made. Did it get out of the committee, or just where is it? What is the status on that, Nick?
It is deeply being admired. There is a cyber charter bill. I can actually supply the number. It's, when I get off here.
You can do that in a contact
Oh,
tab.
sorry, now everyone's talking. I can supply that, but that is Representative Cerisi's bill, and it's just not been moving at all. But I'll supply that bill number.
Okay,
Yep. Any school board directors have any questions?
Yes, I may have missed it, so I'm sorry if I did. With regard, what did I miss our number, our percentage, what we were thinking about? With regard to
No, we haven't discussed that, Ms.
Okay.
Boykins.
Okay,
We just know that we have to do an Act 1, which says we will not exceed
okay,
one number, which is 8%, but that's not going to happen either. But we just have to take that formality.
okay. And the last question was, going back to our gap, could I have the numbers on the gap that we had, with regard to, I think, with regard to what we were given to, I can't remember what our gap, we had a gap, I believe, that you were talking about, Jen, with regard to how much we're going to need or how much we need to raise taxes to if we needed to. I can't remember how much we were under meeting our budget.
So, Mr. Kaufman, was that the $30,000 that we discussed earlier?
Yes, so
Got lucky, Ms. Boykins.
yeah,
Hold
when we passed our budget, the
Mhm.
number that we were working with was a figure that was put out in March.
Mhm.
And at the time they said level up is a part of BEF, you're not going to get any more money, this is the number.
Okay.
They went back and forth, and when the budget finally got passed, they said we were going to get 30,000 less than that, and then they also passed an amount for level up in addition to that, what we had budgeted.
Okay.
So had it been funded, we would have been great. Since it's not, we have a $30,000 gap.
Oh, just a third. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. 30,000. Okay, I was
But
just hoping it wasn't. more.
Yeah, I would say
Is
it's
that-
extremely lucky that we,
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, I've never, and I actually just, Mr. Kaufman and I talked about this on Monday and getting ready for the meeting. That
Mhm,
we went with the very first number,
mhm.
which was very fortunate for us.
Okay.
So we got lucky.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank goodness. Yeah. I just wanted to ask that because I you know how when we talk about our index
Yeah.
and what people get kind of nervous about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for explaining that. Sorry that you had to double back. Thank you.
No problem at all. Dr. Plum, did you had your hand up and now it's not. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, she's back. Dr. Plum, can someone let her speak, please?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Plum.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Quick question. I think you had mentioned something about summer programming and was it ESSER money?
Yep.
yes.
Is that gonna continue this year or are you out of money?
No, so for 2024, it is slated. What was
Oh,
it?
good. Okay.
$2 million? What was that?
1.3. Historically, we've budgeted around 2, so it's a little less than the traditional budget. So we've been seeking additional opportunities and looking at how we can implement the programs while also staying as close to that figure as possible.
Yeah, great.
Or if
Thank
we
you.
get additional funding,
Right.
doing more, obviously.
So the trick with that to everyone and Dr. Plum is that the ESSER summer programs were catch-up money, right? COVID, you can use this to catch up students.
Mhm.
This is the last year of that. So if we wanted to continue our robust summer programs, we would have to find that money elsewhere after 2024. Ms. Tax. Thank you, Dr. Plum. Ms. Tax, you're up. Wait, no, wrong person. Yep. Hold on.
You can hear me now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Tax, how are you?
I just have two questions. What is the difference in the budget between what we paid for charter schools last year versus what it will be in the new budget? How much of a difference?
In the 23-24 year or the 24-25 year?
So from this school year to what we're budgeting on the new budget?
I would
So-
have to, definitely have to look into it to be sure, but I believe we budgeted about 17 million.
Okay, and what do we spend on the students in the school district versus the charter school? Is there a
So,
difference?
so the calculation makes it so that and so the original calculation is based on your budget, and you can back out certain things like federal program expenditures. For regular education students, you can back out special education student expenditures, and basically you take the remaining of your budget and you divide it by the number of students you have in enrollment, and that is how much you are charged in tuition. So basically, it's a 1-to-1. The major difference being that charter school buildings are usually newer, or in the case of a cyber charter, there is no building, so all that maintenance expense that's allocated, they don't have like we do.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Kaufman, then speaking on that, with regard to charters, at one point, I think, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, when we first came in, like as when I came in as board director, we were like at like 10 million that we were spending on charter schools. And now we're at 17 million, which is a great percentage of our budget in general. And that's the fight that we've been trying to fight for so long with regard to trying to reduce the cost of our charter schools and trying to figure out how to get our students back. But it's just when you look at it, you speak over the numbers, it's like a significant jump from 10 million to 7 million. And then if you count for 24-25, Mr. Kaufman, you're probably going to be up to 20 million almost.
So
Or
we're going to get some legislative help before then, Ms. Boykins. I'm going to be an optimist.
I hope so. I
What-
hope so.
What's interesting or not interesting is besides the, if we spend 10,000 on a student, we have to give the charters 10,000. But the charters have 30% speech and language, and we have 5% speech and language. So there's sort of some padding going on there because, of course, 30% of the students in charters don't have speech and language problems, or differences. So that, and the transportation cost is not in there also, Mr. Kaufman, correct?
Correct. So in addition to the tuition, we also have to pay, we are required to pay transportation costs for charter students as long as they are attending a school within 10 miles.
Right. So it is rather complex and unfortunate. And what is even more unfortunate is that if you look at the charters, a lot of them are holding a lot of money in their fund balance, which means they are holding mine and your money in their fund balance when we don't have that advantage, because that fund balance means that they don't, that's sort of like their profit.
It's their savings. Yeah.
So
And
go on, Ms. Boyd.
the other question I would want to know is with regard to IEPs, because what would be the difference with regard to like how much we spend, like for instance, the significant jump of how many students of ours with IEPs have gone to charters and how that has changed over a period of the last 2 to 5 years. That's something that I would like to know the numbers on, or if we can look at, because that'll also tell us, identify where we're losing our kids to. Because if we're losing, I know that some things we can't provide because we're not set up in that way, but if we can find out what type of IEPs that we are losing some of our kids to, or if there's a significant jump in, if they have an IEP or don't have an IEP, will help us figure out monetarily how much we're spending as well.
Yeah, so in many cases, again, I'm not against choice, but in many cases that student would receive its IEP at the charter school. So we're not losing that young person because they have an IEP that we can't meet. Because let me assure you, the charters can return a child at any time. And they typically do not take the more complex IEPs. But I wanted to give you guys a House bill. HB 1422 is the bill from Representative Cerisi. You can just Google that, but it amends the March 10th, 1949 wording around public school code and charters. So yeah, 1949. So that's House Bill 1422. It's definitely worth the read. Ms. Tax, did you have your hand up again? I thought I saw it. Yeah, can we let Ms. Tax speak again? You're on, Ms. Tax.
Hey, I just had one more question. I thought you were answering it when you were speaking, but you didn't. So what happens, what happens when we pay for the student to go to charter and the parents or student decide to come back to the district? Do we get the money back that we spent on the student going to the charter? Does it return to the district?
Sure. So we do monthly reconciliations and actually pay monthly for each student. And so if a student comes back to the district middle of the month, we pay for the whole month, and then at the end of the year during our reconciliation process, we get a reimbursement or like a credit to our last bill that we pay to the charter school. So it's very back and forth process every month, processing the charter bills.
I'll wait. I'm sorry, I'll wait for Mrs. Tax. I just had another question.
Yeah, anything else, Ms. Tax?
No, that's everything.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Boykin?
So Jen, like I wanted to bring a little clarity to what you said. So okay, so when you said that the IEP is identified at the charter, but what if, like for instance, I can give in this example because I have someone specifically, a Visions charter, a kid with an IEP from our school
Right,
goes to Visions.
right,
That means they already have an IEP. They've already been given an IEP here. Then they go to Visions. Visions picks up on that IEP and
Right.
gives them the parent may leave because okay, well they don't feel like William Penn School District is probably meeting their needs for that IEP. So
Whatever
then they
the case.
pick another school. So what I'm saying is that is what I would like to track. Like our kids that leave with IEPs and go somewhere else to see how many kids we actually are losing off of that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Got it.
Wanted
Yeah.
to be clarity to my question. That's
Yeah,
all.
I think that, Mr. Kaufman, is there a way that we can sort of track in and out of charter, school students?
So in our current system, it'd be very difficult. And it definitely doesn't marry to our special education tracking.
Mm.
So I don't know if we'd be able to look at historically, but we can start collecting that data to go forward. I have enrollment, like all I have is enrollment numbers from year to year, but I don't have like what date they entered per student and when their IEP date was. And I just don't know how difficult it would be if we had that data in two separate places to marry it.
Yeah, can you ask this also? I think
Mhm.
it has to do with, without an educational, say, student numbering system in our state, which folks have been advocating for.
Yes.
For a
Yep.
minute, because right now, if a student had a number associated with them, then we could track where that everything went, and we don't. So, they've been advocating for that for a while too.
Yeah, so the largest difficulty for us is if a student leaves, the district doesn't come back, we know they aren't there because they haven't attended for 10 days. Sometimes we won't know that they're attending a charter school until we get a bill, and then we have to verify their address and make sure they're still in the district. And that's all work put on the district to do this verification process because there's no universal system that lets you tag a student to a school or district, so that only one person or one entity can claim, for lack of a better term, that student.
Yep, yep. Thank you. Any other questions? Great questions. I very much appreciate everyone's participation. See you next December and every month until June. We will be releasing some information about our citizen program and asking citizens to attend these meetings with us as members of the committee. So look for that in December or January, I believe. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a very nice Thanksgiving. And be safe out there.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.